Hello, everybody. Welcome to the Attractions Group podcast. This is episode 73. Alongside Don Helbig, I'm Ryan Sir. Don, how was your Christmas?
It was good, uneventful. Not a lot of travel, with it. Pretty much, went back and forth between my house and my daughter and her husband's house. But it was kind of relaxed. Watched some football. Had some great food. How was yours?
I didn't travel, but I did have rather stressful Christmas, just simply uh being obligated to be at about six different places at once. But I really enjoyed the holidays. I got to see, my little nephews and Aaron's little nephews, and uh I love giving gifts and stuff. Most importantly, I like getting gifts. But yeah, I had a really good Christmas. But yeah,
Well, that's great.
cool.
That's great. It's hard to believe. I mean, it's already come and gone, right?
I know and it's funny because Christmas of all holidays is like you anticipated for like, I mean, I was gonna say 6 weeks, but it's really like as soon as Labor Day hits, then you start talking about holiday shopping, and then the Christmas music kicks in right before Halloween, and God, it feels like Halloween was yesterday, doesn't it?
It does. I mean, it seems like it's been it was way down the road. But yeah, I mean, it just kind of comes and goes, and then we got a few days here, and then the first of the year hits, and then it just kind of like goes so slow, January and February, doesn't it?
It does, and, I mean, I've got my birthday coming up in mid-January. I've mentioned that a few times, but I have to admit that January is definitely the most depressing month because you don't have Christmas to look forward to. It's cold, it's dark all the time. Um, at least with February, you start getting, like, that glimmer of hope because isn't, like, Groundhog Day in February where they start talking about, like, "Oh, spring's right around the
Yeah,
corner." Yeah, so
February 2nd.
yeah, so Puxatawny Phil can tell us that we're gonna have, like, well, I can't really say like 6 more weeks of misery because at least the last 2 weeks has been like the best winter ever. It was like 50 degrees on Christmas here, you know?
Yeah, well, there's a couple of things in January I get to go to. There's the American Coaster Enthusiast Annual No Coaster Con that is in Chicago, so that's mid-January, and then at the end of January, there's one I'm going to go to this year for the first time. It's the Ace Winterfest event, and they have it in Texas. And this year it's at SeaWorld there in San Antonio. So really looking forward to that, especially at that time of the year to get down to San Antonio when it might only be like 10 or 15 degrees here in the greater Cincinnati area. So I'm very excited about that opportunity.
Yeah, it's funny when we had Chris Roberry from the National Roller Coaster Museum on. Uh, he was talking about the irony of Texas. Now, San Antonio is a little different because that's usually just warm, but most of Texas is incredibly hot in the summer, and everyone thinks it's hot all year, but it gets very cold in the winter. But I believe San Antonio, it's got like almost like Orlando weather, where it's like yeah, sometimes in the upper 60s, lower 70s during the coldest times of the year. You know.
It's nice. When I was working for hockey teams, specifically the Cincinnati Mighty Ducks, every year we'd have a road trip to San Antonio in January, and it was my favorite trip of the year. It was toward the end of January, just when it was getting really cold in Cincinnati, and it was normally, like you talked about, 70s, just real comfortable. You could, spend the evening, between games or the morning after the morning skate, just walking around the river. Down there they've got the Riverwalk, some great restaurants and that, just a great time. So I'm looking forward to that, and I'll send you some. I'll be sure to send you some photos back of the sunshine and that I'm experiencing down there, and you'll probably be in about maybe 4 or 5 inches of snow or something.
Well, we don't use the S word here on the Attractions Group podcast, but yeah, it does seem like fortunately snow seems to hold off until after the holidays around here, but that's really cool. But you know, um as we mentioned, Christmas is over. As of this recording, it was a few days ago. We're still in 2023, but the year's almost over. So what we're going to do is we're going to do something new. We're going to have the AGP awards. So we're going to talk about the best, the brightest, some of the coolest things. Think like the Golden Ticket Awards, but as opposed to being voted on by the fans, this is something Don and I came up with. Uh, so why don't you explain it a little bit, Don?
All right. Well, we're thrilled to present our awards to the industry's finest in our last episode of the year. Our selections in each category, they stem from our personal experiences. They're intertwined, though, with some insights of those we work closely with every day that hit a lot of parks as well. So we take some of their feedback and bounce ideas off each other. But I think we've got a pretty good list here, and it's going to definitely be different than what you might see in any other type of polls out there.
Yeah, so let's get right into it. Don, take the first one.
Okay, recognizing the best steel roller coasters on our list for 2023, we got Millennium Force at Cedar Point, Velocicoaster at Universal Orlando Resort, and Iron Gwazi at Busch Gardens, Tampa. Now, these are in no specific order, just those are the three that made our top list.
Yeah, it would be very difficult to pick a top 3 steel coasters, but these have to be on everybody's list. Millennium Force is a little more controversial. For a lot of people, it's their favorite ride on Earth. A lot of people think it's overrated. Personally, went from the camp of thinking it was overrated, and as I've ridden it more, I've really appreciated it more, and just like the speed and the intensity and stuff. Velocicoaster is an absolute masterpiece. Beautiful ride. It looks good. The sensation is cool. The theme is cool. So shout out to Universal Orlando for
Hmm.
getting that one out. And then Iron Gwazi, I actually got to ride for the first time over the summer, and I really enjoyed that because the big hang up for me with RMCs is that they get these ejector air and it just slams you into the lap bar. You didn't have that with this. It was just smooth transitions and floating air, and just a beautiful ride. What are your thoughts, Don?
I agree with you on all three of these coasters making our list here. There are so many good steel coasters. It's hard to fit. If you're only talking about three, it's hard to get everybody in that three. Some of our listeners may say, "What about Fury 325?" I think for this year, it's been a lot of time not open. So I think that there's something when we're looking at these different awards and that the reliability of the ride, being open. I think that factored into it, or Fury 325 would certainly have made the list.
Yeah, certainly. That's another one that's top of a lot of other people's list, including the Golden Ticket Awards. But hey, let's move on to top wooden coasters. So what we have down is the Voyage at Holiday World. Never heard of that one. Thunderhead at Dollywood and Thunderbolt at Kennywood. Um, so Don, since I read it, why don't you comment on these first?
Well, I mean, the Voyage is at the top of just about any enthusiast industry poll that's out there. It's going to be, if not number one, it's number two or number three. So that was an easy choice there to put in there. Thunderhead at Dollywood, retrack work on it. I mean, it was running phenomenal this year, and it always has placed high in all those different polls. The dark horse that got in there was Thunderbolt at Kennywood. You just don't hear a lot about it, but it's a terrific wooden coaster, one of my favorite wooden coasters. It's a great night ride. I think there are a lot of fans of that ride that now that we mentioned, I think they'll come out of the woodwork and support putting it as one of the top wooden coasters out there. But those are the three that made the list, and just like the steel coasters, I mean, there's a lot of great wooden coasters out there, but we can only pick three.
That's right. Now, for Thunderbolt, I rode that in like 2007, so that was the last time I rode it. But it's a classic. It really is a great ride, and it interacts with Phantom's Revenge and stuff. It's just really cool. Um, the Voyage at Holiday World is if it's not in your top 5, you probably haven't ridden it. The only downside would be that I imagine it's probably too intense for some people because it is very long and it. But I mean, if you're a coaster enthusiast, like my God, what else could you ask for in a wooden coaster? And then Thunderhead at Dollywood is just I like their older generation Millennium Flyer trains that you feel like you're sitting on a love
Hmm.
seat. That's my favorite part of that ride. But I love Thunderhead. I absolutely love it, and it's really a good example of GCI and what they can do. And you morph into Mystic Timbers. A decade or so later, and it just shows the progression of what these rides can do and how awesome they are.
Now, when we look at this list too, I don't think anyone's going to argue with us about the Voyage and Holiday World and Thunderhead at Dollywood being on this list. But those that might want to question Thunderbolt, I ask, just go ride it, give it another thought, and then come back at us. But I couldn't leave it off the list.
Right. I mean, like, I had to put that caveat in there because I can't say like I wrote it over the summer and it was great or whatever. But I mean, it's a classic. It's just a beautiful ride. It's just fantastic. So if you haven't made it out to Kennywood, what are you waiting for? Their coaster collection's amazing. Their dark rides are amazing. Their events are, the Halloween event, the Christmas event, they're all just incredibly fantastic.
All right, moving on. Highlighting the premier amusement or theme parks in 2023, we got Dollywood, Hershey Park, and Holiday World.
Yeah, as I said in a previous episode, there's two types of people: those that have Dollywood as their favorite park, and people who are lying about it. Dollywood does everything right so often. The ride collection is not suffering at all. But the beauty of it is, and I think you and I have actually discussed this off air, but if you went to Dollywood, let's say you had like a cast on your arm or something and you couldn't ride rides, but your friends were going to Dollywood and you were just like, I've got to entertain myself all day. You could do that. You can do it with the shopping and the entertainment and the experiences and stuff. So Dollywood just does so much right. Um, Holiday World is a park that everybody wants to hug. Uh, it's nestled in the Nowheresville, Indiana, but hey, worth the drive, especially if you're in the Cincinnati market. But three fantastic wooden coasters. They've got hands down the best wing coaster on earth. I'll say it louder for the people in the back because that launch is so freaking cool. I mean, just the pure physics of getting a train that heavy up to speed with the launch is just mind boggling to me. Now,
Yeah,
Hershey.
phenomenal
Oh
ride.
yeah, yeah. And then Hershey Park, full disclosure, I haven't been there. But you're about the probably the 15th person in the past 12 months that have said that's one of my favorite seasonal parks. It's so good, and Chocolate Town's so good, and the rides are so good, and there's so much going on there.
Just a lot to see and do there. Great collection of wooden coasters. Um, Great lineup of flat rides. Great food. Just a really good setting. Just a lot to like about it.
Yeah, I completely agree with you. So yeah, it's very very good list of premier amusement parks. It's Dollywood, Hershey Park, and Holiday World are three different. It's like a three-pronged approach to the true experience, and very different approaches in some cases, but all of which are just amazing. Okay, so let's talk about the standout new roller coaster for 2023. We got three of them on the list. Obviously, it's Wildcats Revenge at Hershey Park. There's a shocker. Big Bear Mountain at Dollywood, and Air Force One at Fun Spot Atlanta. Don, what are your thoughts on these three?
Wildcats Revenge. I got a chance to ride that in November when I was there for their Christmas event. Just blew me away. Totally changed my mind on RMC coasters. I think every park needs a good one. Um, just loved it. Big Bear Mountain, Dollywood, they did everything right with that coaster. What I really like about that is it's a ride that everyone in the family can do together. Everyone in the family is going to get off the ride and want to ride it again. The setting, visually, it just looks beautiful. So they did everything right with that one. Then when you look at Fun Spot Atlanta, those fun spots don't get a lot of attention, but they've got some, great thrill rides, and this is one of them. And that's one that, we heard a lot about, especially in the spring when it first opened. We continued to hear a lot of talk about it in the summer months and into the fall. So it has earned its place on our list of the top three standout new roller coasters of 2023.
Yeah, I mean, like, I can only speak to the one. So, Area Force One and Wildcats Revenge, I
Mhm.
have not ridden yet. Looking forward to doing in the future. Big Bear Mountain, though, I did ride at the first
Mhm.
opportunity I had. And no regrets with that. That ride just doesn't stop. It just every time you think you're turning into the station, you see another spaghetti bowl of track. But
You do.
I had a friend that he and I debated on it because he said, well, they cut down a lot of the trees and stuff, which yeah, that's fair. But the theming,
You had to.
you do, and but in a lot of cases though, when they talk about the theming, they think about stuff that a lot of people could very easily write off, but they thought about. And one example, and I think I've talked about this before, is at various places you hear the growl of the big bear. And what's the simple solution on that ride? It's got an in-ride audio system. Pipe the growl through the audio system. They didn't
Mhm.
do that. They had the growl coming from speakers outside because the bear's not in your car. it's coming from the outside. So it added this like three-dimensional audio aspect to it, which I thought was an awesome touch. And it was really cool that they thought about that and they were willing to put that effort into it. But you can't say enough good things about Big Bear Mountain.
No, and it's, it's like I said, it's not the biggest, the longest, the fastest, but it's one of my favorite coasters. Just love it. All right, moving on. We're going to celebrate the top kids area and Wildwood Grove at Dollywood. And a big part of that, we talk about Big Bear Mountain. I think the setting plays part of that. I mean, it's just stunning, especially at night as you're coming up in the sun setting, and you see these different attractions. That, but the mountains in the background, they've got a lot of good flat rides that the families, the parents and the kids can all do together. Um, the Black Bear Trail. I love that as much as the kids do. So just a lot of things to see and do there. Just really well done by Dollywood, and they deserve that spot with the top kids
What's the
area.
tree called? It's not the Tree of Life. That's at Animal Kingdom. Do you remember what the tree's called?
Not off the top of my head, but I know exactly
Yeah,
what you're
yeah.
talking
I mean,
about.
they have like some sort of like catchy name for it, but I think that's such a neat touch, especially when you can see it at night, how they do projections on it and stuff. And
Yeah.
it's awesome, like foreground for like the firework and drone shows too, which they recommend viewing from Wildwood Grove. But and it has an original song too, written by Dolly herself. So can't really argue with Wildwood Grove. I love Dollywood. I think
No.
it's just such a special place, you know.
All right. What's next?
All right. So let's talk about let's acknowledge the finest collection of kids rides, and that's going to be at Hershey Park. Now, you specifically told me something about kids rides at Hershey Park. Tell me what stuck out to you.
Just that I mean, number one, they're adorable. They have like a little mini scrambler. They've got the little mini like tumble bug, just adorable. They're scattered throughout the park, so there's not really a specific kids area. Now, if these were all in one area, it could be in the running for the top kids area, it'd be one of those top three or four out there. In North America, but just a really good, collection. It's a great, I think their kids rides are, when you look at the little miniature models of some of the bigger rides that are out there, it's a good way for kids to get started. And then they gradually work their way up to the bigger scrambler, the bigger monster, those kind of rides. So, um, yeah, just a lot of fun little rides, and it made me want to be, 5 or 6 years old again.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, we talk about things to do. That's definitely one of the parks that can treat a bunch of different people, especially the younger kids. So that's very, very cool. All right, moving along.
All right. Recognizing the pinnacle of guest experience, Dollywood, Holiday World, and Busch Gardens, Virginia. Those are the three parks that they just they just get it.
Yeah. I mean, I would say that Dollywood, the feeling I get there is that I'm appreciated as a guest. You know, it's I feel like there are parks out there that kind of loathe. They want to sell them tickets, and then when they come in the gate, they don't want to deal with them. And that's true for like even, you know, Walmart customers. They put out an ad, and then oh, these stupid customers are here. Dollywood is not like that. Dollywood is very genuine, and people want to help you, and they want you to have a good time, and they want you to get home safely, and they want you to come back. You know, I would argue that it's probably the same mentality. It's the Southern comfort that makes Holiday World special, where it's very religious in their roots. I feel like Dollywood is a little bit more in your face about it, and I don't mean that in a bad way. But just absolute, care. You feel like you're coming home to either of those parks. And then Busch Gardens, Virginia, Williamsburg, that is one of those parks where it's almost like you're not in Florida. You're not it's year round, but it's like not every day. So how are you creating such an awesome experience? How are you having this level of entertainment when you're just like a seasonal park on steroids? That's how I felt about that.
Yeah, I mean the themed area. Yeah, yeah. I mean for me, it's like the themed areas at Busch Gardens, Virginia. Every it seems like all the associates, they kind of get into the costume, into the role, and they seem to love the park as much as the guests do. And I think that's important. When you see that kind of interest and excitement, from the associates that you know that are coming from them that you have as a guest. I think that really goes a long way.
Yep. Yep. Absolutely. Cool. All right. So, most picturesque parks: Busch Gardens, Williamsburg, Busch Gardens, Tampa, and Kings Dominion. Don, what are your thoughts?
I like the three choices here. You know, the Bush Park's just beautiful, stunning. Kings Dominion is a park that it just doesn't get talked about enough.
Hmm.
I think it looks, you know, just beautiful. International Street looks great. The trees, you know, they got the different themed areas with, you know, the Candy Apple Grove. Um, you know, it just really just a really nice park. And I wish more people, you know, talked about it. But if you're somebody that's interested in photography, you know, you're going to find a lot of great visuals at Kings Dominion.
Yeah, and I always felt like Kings Dominion has more trees per capita than any other park, so I always enjoyed that. And it's not just I'm not one of those like tree hugger types or anything, but tree like a friend of mine and I have this joke about how hot certain parks are like during the summer, and it's not that it's always hot when we're there, it's that there's no shade. And if you have trees everywhere and stuff, you're walking down a midway and you're being protected from the sun, so it doesn't feel as hot. But and it's as I'm saying this, I realize how petty it sounds, but it does impact your experience. It really does. You know?
Yeah, and you've got a couple other parks here that could be on this list easily. You know, Dollywood could be on that list. You know, Magic Kingdom, you know, could be on that list because that looks, you know, beautiful, especially at night. You know, Cedar Point, you know, it looks beautiful, especially with the new boardwalk area and that. So, there's a lot of parks that, you know, fit the description here of most picturesque. But it's hard to argue against Busch Gardens, Williamsburg, Busch Gardens, Tampa, and Kings Dominion, I think.
I agree. I guess if I had to pick one of those three as my favorite, I would say that it's probably Busch Gardens Williamsburg. Because they've got the Rhine River setting and stuff, which I think is like the coolest, most
Yes.
picturesque
Yeah.
thing ever. Yeah.
Yeah, I agree with you.
All right.
All right, celebrating the finest culinary delights. We're both foodie
Yeah.
fans. Dollywood, Kennywood, and Cedar Point.
Well, I mean, Cedar Point had me at the turkey at the Grand Pavilion.
Well, they had me too with the chicken tenders. So I'm still thinking about those chicken tenders there. And you got Kennywood, you got those fries. I mean, how good are those?
Absolutely.
Dollywood, I mean, Aunt Granny's and, you know, just some of the other treats and things that they have there. Um, you know, those three parks, you go there and you don't have to ride a ride. You don't have to watch a show. You don't have to do anything other than eat. And you're going to leave there having had a great time.
Yeah, the chicken and dumplings, which I had at Aunt Granny's. I haven't seen them for a while, so I don't know if they're going to come back or not, but that's my favorite theme park food I've ever had. So I think that's pretty cool.
Yeah, that was amazing.
Yeah. All right. So next up, best new capital announcement campaigns for 2024. So the reason why we're doing 2024 obviously is because these are all ceased up because they made their announcements. But we're gonna put Holiday World's Good Gravy, Dorney Park's Steel Menace, and Cedar Point's Top Thrill 2. What are your thoughts, Don?
Well, I think all three good choices here. You know, I really liked following what Holiday World did with Good Gravy, you know, from start to finish with that one. Dorney Park, they've done a tremendous job there of engaging their audience. I mean, first, what, roller coaster in like 19 years there. So, you know, for the park, a lot to be excited about. And they've conveyed that and got their audience, you know, excited about it. And, you know, Cedar Point, everybody's eyes were on that one with what they were going to do. And they didn't fail. They put out a great announcement video for it. They've done another great job following it up with those different episodes that they do, giving updates. So those are the three parks that you know we felt that they did a really good job, the best job of you know promoting their new capital for 2024. You know, starting with the teaser campaigns and then moving through the announcement.
Yeah, I mean, I would say that if I had to pick out each one and say a nice thing about it, for Dorney Park, they were able to expand the theme beyond just the ride. Because remember, they had the haunt attraction that was based
Right.
off the theme, so that was really really cool, and that definitely garnered some excitement. For Top Thrill 2. They had one of the better concept videos as well as you know, they weren't completely unwilling to talk about the fact that something was coming for next year. I thought that that was like because if
Right.
they just acted like it didn't exist or denied it or whatever, then that's all people would ever talk about. But they didn't do that, and people knew it was coming in 2024, and they squashed the story they didn't want to have before the story came out. And then what else can we say about Good Gravy? I mean, it's a little kids coaster that got more attention than either of these two. So they knocked it out of the park with their announcement. Their video was the best of all the 2024 capital announcements that I've seen for next year. And yeah, they've got a real home run on their hands, but very, very cool.
They do. They do. I mean, that's just a lot of fun there. All right. Now, showcasing the premier Halloween events, we've got Halloween Haunt at Cedar Point, Alice Scream at Busch Gardens, Virginia, and Fright Fest at Six Flags Great America. Those were the ones that, when you look at the combination of what a Halloween event, is, they've got the good scare zones, they've got the good mazes, they've got, rides that are open. So, those are the three that make our list. What are your thoughts, Ryan?
Yeah, I think that especially Cedar Points is terribly underrated. People never think about that. They probably put it on the same shelf as every other haunt event, but I think theirs is particularly good. I like that it's in the back of the park, so if you don't like that sort of stuff, you can just kind of stick in the front of the park. That's a luxury that they have
Right.
as a result of their layout. But uh, yeah, fantastic choices. What are your thoughts?
I mean, just the core, the scare zones, so even if you're not going through the mazes, you're still going to be able to, get that, Halloween feel to you. I think what I liked about Howlin' Scream at Busch Gardens, a lot of the mazes are off the beaten path. So during the day, it's still like, it's still Busch Gardens, like it normally would be. It's not taken over by the Halloween props and things that are unoccupied until, it's time for the event to start. So I really like that. When it comes to the scare zones and the makeup, and just the actors, the scare actors, Fright Fest at Six Flags Great America. They do a great job. You don't hear enough about theirs. But you mentioned at the top, though, Cedar Point, kind of flies under the radar. And, when it comes to the haunt event, they've been doing it really well
I
for
I
years.
agree. And they've got a shall we say Knott's-esque show on their main celebration stage, which is something that the other parks do not have. And by other parks, I mean most other
Yeah.
parks. So I think it's really cool. I think it's a
Yeah.
fantastic
Now,
event.
if you've not been to any of these three events, try to get to at least one of them next year. And I think you'll see why Ryan and I have these three specifically on our list for the Attractions Group Podcast Awards for 2023.
Yeah, let's move along and let's talk about top Christmas events. So we got who would have thought? Smoky Mountain Christmas at Dollywood. And of course, there's Christmas Candy Cane Lane at Hershey Park and Mickey's Very Merry Christmas Party at Magic Kingdom at Walt Disney World in Orlando. So I've done two of the three. We did a whole episode last week on Mickey's Christmas Party, and that was a fantastic event. It was almost a $200 upcharge per ticket, so you pay very dearly for it. But
Right.
yeah, it was definitely cool. Uh, there is nothing like Christmas at Dollywood. That's probably one of the best ones. Just Smoky Mountain Christmas just has that awesome aura to it, and just fantastic. And then Candy Cane
Yeah,
Lane
you
is all
cannot
you.
help. Yeah. Yeah, I was gonna say Dollywood, you cannot help, being caught up in the spirit of the season, the reason for the season and all that when you go to Dollywood. I mean, like you said, it just over the top, well done. And it just gets better and better every year. I mean, it's always been great, but it just keeps getting better. The decor, the lights, it's all spectacular. You've got the food, and then all your rides, your favorite rides are open during the event. Christmas Candy Lane at Hershey Park. I heard it was nice. I had not been there for that event, but I kept being told it's nice. Well, it certainly is that. Visually stunning, spectacular, with the lights. They've got them on the ground, they've got them on the building, they've got them in trees. Just really, really well done. The food, the treats, it fits in with the season. It's really like that. And what's not to love about Mickey's Christmas party there at the Magic Kingdom? I mean, it's just real festive. The park does it right. Like you said, it is expensive to do it, but the families that go, I mean, it's a great value.
Yeah. Yeah. So this is our final episode of 2023, Don.
It is, and it's been a thrill to recognize the best in the industry.
Yeah. From roller coasters to park experiences, we've covered it all. So here's to another year of excitement and thrills. Until next time, keep the adrenaline high and the memories unforgettable.
All right, we'd like to wish everyone a happy new year, and we'll see you in 2024.
See you in 2024. Happy New Year, everybody.